you're appealing to latitude and longitude, but that's non-Euclidean geometry. Meanwhile, Newtonian physics.
And one second. What it have non-Euclidean geometry with the sphere?
What's up?
So if it's a sphere, do I have to work with Euclidean geometry?
Well, I'm just gonna point out that
point it out because you don't understand geometry. Yes, this is the real point. On the sphere, you cannot work with Euclidean geometry all the way through. You can work on local scale. Local scale is working in Euclidean geometry. On the huge scale, no, you have to imply the spherical geometry. So different things, my friend.
So why do you go back and forth?
You not go back and forth.
Yeah, you do.
No,
because
you're not going back and forth.
Newtonian physics, optical geometry is all Euclidean. Spherical, latitude and longitude is non-Euclidean. So why do you guys pick and choose? Why do you guys go back and forth?
No, my friend. For you to be very easy to calculate something that is extremely huge, as the distances, you can stay with Euclidean because the local scales are getting you surfaces. Yeah, you're calculating surfaces. When you go with a huge amount of distances, you have to imply the spherical geometry. It's not back and forth. For you to have a constant calculation and to avoid errors, you have to stay with those two geometries. So for you, if you don't understand that, it's not our problem. The biggest thing in the flat earth community is not understanding. Shut up! Not understanding mathematical concepts.
You just, you guys just pick and choose what you want, and then say, "Oh, we have a complete model." It's nonsense.
The model is not complete. I'm so sorry for you.
Well, so why do you make fun of flat earthers all day?
Because you don't have not even a starting model.
You don't even have geometry.
Oh, who said because we don't have geometry?
I did.
Ah, okay. So you are the force who knows everything about mathematics.
Well, spherical geometry is non-Euclidean.
And so?
Curved, let him finish.
We're gonna get an answer out of him as to what natural law states that it must be Euclidean for some reason.
And Newtonian physics, optical geometry, that's all Euclidean. So
right, this ain't gonna last long, Curd, if you don't let the coders finish.
But my friend, the bending of light.
Don't stifle the discussion.
Right,
the bending of light over a sphere. Do you think it's Euclidean?
It is, and that's a problem.
Oh yeah. So this is Euclidean.
Optical geometry is Euclidean, and that's a problem because it doesn't account for refraction.
How?
There is no optical geometry that accounts for refraction 100%. It's all guesswork.
How to be? No. Okay. So in your point of view, if I'm calculating the deviation of degree, in the refraction limits that are in the atmosphere, do I do something wrong?
It's not my point of view. This is
it's not your point of view. But if you have an atmosphere, if you have an atmosphere and that atmosphere, it's how you say in English, needs. It's how I don't know how to explain it. It have to be applicable, because otherwise you're not gonna have the correct numbers. What you gonna do? You're gonna work without the atmosphere?
You could work with it, but your geometry doesn't account for it. So
yes, it's accounting. Yes.
No, it doesn't.
Who said because it doesn't?
Percy Brigman, Morris Klein. Would you like sources?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll post them for you.
So I want to see a person who claims because he's living on the Earth and doesn't have to take into account the refractions and everything what the atmosphere is doing. I really want to see a scientist.
I said, hey man, your face is a source. Okay.
So where is the source?
There you go. I just posted one. I got another for you.
The logic of modern physics. Let me see. Yes, my friend, but here he's talking about the surfaces. Doesn't talk about the things that have atmosphere.
Oh, there's some from Morris Klein.
Yes, my friend, but he's talking about surfaces. He doesn't talk about things that have atmosphere on it.
What are you talking about?
So, you live on the planet, yes?
No, we're talking about light. How light is described with geometry.
But here, yeah, I found it. The race, okay. Yes, it's true. You cannot find the true path of the light. It's very true. But you can find the behavior of the light during that day. Yeah, you cannot find exactly path of the light. It's very true.
Right.
But you can find the behavior of the light, and this is what he's talking here. Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah.
No, so no, you cannot construct the exactly path of the light, my friend. The exactly path of the light is going to be deducted by the calculations that have been done. But what he's implying here, and I don't know if you have been understand it very well, he's implying because you cannot construct something as 100% geometrically to be 100% accurate, yeah, over something that you're gonna calculate and you're not gonna observe. This is their claims.
Yeah.
Okay, so but in our construct, we have something, and it's working very well, and it's have a lot of repeatable evidences. So you're gonna put a repeatable evidence of something and over a description that is applied here as we cannot construct 100% the path of light. It's very true.
Okay, so there you go.
So no, there you go. I have been explaining to you how the things that are working in nature. If our understanding of a thing is deriving from mathematics, doesn't mean that mathematics is wrong.
Well, math isn't reality either.
It is reality.
No, it isn't.
No, it is reality. It's a
why did you want the citation in the first place?
Mathematics is it's an expression of the things.
Yeah, but why did you make him get the citation?
1 second.
Think about why you just made him get the citation. Yeah?
1 second.
You don't even know why he went and got the citation for.
Yes, but he extracted something that it's exactly like cherry picking, you know? He didn't take everything out.
Cherry picking?
Yes, it is cherry picking.
So what I picked out disagrees with the rest of everything that they say? Because that's what cherry picking is.
No, my friend, you have been taken out from the construct of how you're gonna understand the light behavior through real measurements, and you have been took it examples of of path that cannot be described. So
Yeah,
the light, so the light is not working. So how to explain to you? He's saying because the light is not working in the same way, like every day, like all the time. It's not gonna have, because you have a lot of variables that are inside of those measurements, and you have to count for all the variables, and you cannot describe the exact path with I don't know, with extremely accuracy, but you can do it. You can do it with a little bit of accuracy, but you're there with the calculations.
as long as you affirm the consequent there with the 7/6 R, right? That
Yes,
R
yes.
there.
But
Yeah,
it's not.
so
Do you think it's a presumption?
yeah, of course it is.
Okay, so explain to me how it is a presumption.
Because how did you get the radius? And furthermore, how are you going to account for the path
How
of
do I get
light
the radius?
if it doesn't account for refraction? You got to shove something in there.
No. How? No. Let's stay with the first point. How do I get the radius?
Yeah.
Do you think we have only one method to get the radius of the Earth?
I'm asking you, how did you get it?
So we have. So for example, let's take the last measurements that have been done in 2016 by a team of scientists from the Bonn University, and they have been using VLBI technology, some telescopes that have been pointed in a certain point on the sky. I think there have been more than 10 telescopes more than 72 telescopes over the Earth. And they have been calculated the degrees of those telescopes, and they have the radius of the Earth. Another easiest one, ISS Canada arm. It have a radar on it, and they have been measured the Earth for Google Earth.
The ISS needs the radius to launch, though, right? To orbit.
Mate,
Yeah.
ISS doesn't launch.
Well, I mean, in order to orbit, it needs the radius.
What are you talking about there? I just give it you two examples of how we have been getting the measurements without shadows. What are you implying here?
When he says two, he means two.
You said ISS. That's a satellite. Yes. Satellites need orbital mechanics. Orbital mechanics require a radius. How'd you get the radius, sir?
What, it have bananas with oranges?
I don't know what you're talking about.
On the radius by guesstimation, and apparently it works.
Works? How do you know what's going on up there?
What are those things, mate? So we have ISS there, yeah? Is there? We have been put a radar on that arm.
You don't know what the ISS is. It could be a drone.
Because we don't know what ISS it is. So, in your point of view, what is this ISS?
How'd you get the radius, sir?
I give it you two examples.
No, you said that you need a satellite which requires orbital trajectories, which use formulas that require a radius. How'd you get the radius in the first place? And the one before that with the telescopes. So what? What telescopes follow a star? So what?
There's a bunch of ways to get the radius from the surface.
Okay, go ahead.
You can measure how much the horizon drops with elevation.
How are you going to account for refraction?
You don't need to, because there's very little refraction. It hardly changes the number. And the higher up you go, the less refraction there is.
But it still happens, right?
Yeah, it's consistent around the whole world. Doesn't matter what time of year you do it, what the weather is. And you get a number, which shows you that the refraction is not changing that data that much, right? And then you can independently verify it by looking at the way that the angle of celestial objects change as you move your latitude around the world. And you can. What do you mean, like what?
The angle of what?
Yeah, like you can measure how much the angle of the sun at noon changes at different latitudes, or the angle of any particular star changes at different latitudes. And by looking at how far you have to travel to see it change, 1 degree in the sky, you can determine. You can also calculate the R value that way.
Okay, so tell me how you do it with
It is
the
known.
sun.
What's that?
Tell me how you do it with the sun.
Okay, so the sun at high noon, which is when it reaches its highest point in the sky.
We'll call that azimuth.
We call that, when it's at 180 degree south azimuth. You look at it from a city on the equator during the equinox, right? So if you're in Quito, Ecuador, it's going to be directly overhead at noon. And then you look at all the other latitudes on that meridian, and you measure, when the sun is when you're at those other latitudes, and you measure the angle of the sun when it's at its highest point, you will see that it's 1 degree for every 69 miles. You multiply 69 miles by 360, and you get the circumference, and you divide the circumference by pi, and that gives you the diameter. Divide that by 2, you get the radius. What's the problem?
Can I do that with my bedroom floor, or no?
Jerry, quick question
No,
before
there
I
it
go.
comes out to
Do
68.
you
and I'll owe you
know
one.
geometry, Jerry? Are you familiar with geometry, or are you familiar with these quotes that you've read? I'm curious. And it's not a swipe at you. I'm trying to understand what we're working with here.
Am I familiar with geometry?
Yeah.
Just basic stuff.
Oh, okay.
All right, do you
Goodbye, my
understand what
friend.
Jake was talking about like the angle to the sun or to the northern celestial pole, and how that corresponds to your latitude and the ways that it does, and how that is evidence against the flat plane and corroborates the sphere of the stated size?
Well,
Do you
it was all.
That and but you don't accept it, or do you not understand that?
Well, I looked into it, and they figured out latitude by angles to Polaris. So of course it's going to match. It doesn't mean that you're on a ball.
Do you understand why this means what it does? Yes or no?
You're saying that the angles to Polaris prove that we're on a sphere, right?
To the northern celestial pole with your latitude, to the sun on any given day, very easily checked at solar noon on your meridian. But it doesn't have to. Equinox makes it simple, but it can be done on any given day. Do you understand how to work with this and how it confirms a sphere and rules out flat? How it can't work with flat unless you want to invoke magic? Simple yes or no.
No, because I could do the same thing with my floor, and it's still going to be flat.
Negative. It doesn't work like that on your floor.
If your floor is flat, then your reading should tell you it's flat, Jerry.
Okay.
But what you cannot do is take these observations, these measurements, and confirm that the surface of the Earth is flat. It
Why not?
shows you the opposite. It conforms to a sphere of the stated size. That's the part I'm trying to get if you understand or not.
Yeah, if you assume that the light rays are parallel. to the
No.
sun, yeah.
No, it doesn't have to do
No.
with that.
So why can't I do?
Okay, I got my answer. You don't understand, so I'm going to leave you alone.
So why can't I do that with my floor?
Because what you'll see with your floor is if you start taking angle readings from, let's say, a chandelier, okay, or a light bulb hanging on your ceiling, what you will quickly see is that you have to keep increasing the distance to get the same amount of angle. So you might get 1 degree of change after 1 foot, and then you'll have to go 2 feet to get another degree of change. And then you'll have to go 4 feet to get another degree of change, because you're talking about the tangent of a right triangle, which is not the way objects are on the Earth when you move around the Earth. When you move around the Earth, a fixed amount of distance changes that angle the same amount, regardless of where you are on the Earth, which is not possible on any flat surface. You understand that?
No.
You don't understand geometry. You ever notice that when a duck flies, I don't know if you've ever been duck hunting. You ever been duck hunting?
No, I never hunted ducks.
Okay. Well, you've seen airplanes fly over your head, right?
Sure.
It appears to be the fastest when it's right over your head, even though the plane's speed hasn't changed. And as it gets further away, it seems the angle of change over your head gets smaller and smaller over time. The plane has to travel further and further to make a small difference in the angle. And when it's far away, you might have to watch the plane for a minute just to see it change a few degrees, as opposed to when it's directly over your head, it's changing within seconds. Right? It's the same as when you're sweeping your sweeping your rifle when you're duck hunting and it's right over your head. When it's right over your head, you're sweeping fast. But as the duck flies away from you, that angle gets less and less, and then you can slow the sweep of your gun. The same if you're shooting skeet. Have you ever shot skeet?
Nope.
Or clays?
No.
Same
I know
thing.
what you're talking about, though.
The angle slows down as you get further away. That's the geometry of a right triangle. You need more and more distance to make an equivalent change of angle. But that's not the way it works with any celestial object. On the Earth, if you travel 69 miles, you have 1 degree of change of that object, which conforms to a sphere 8,000 miles in diameter. That's the only shape that will produce that result, unless you invoke magic, as Kurt said. What's interesting is that diameter is the same exact diameter you get by measuring how much the horizon drops with elevation, which is a completely different calculation using entirely different geometry and an entirely different form of observation.
I don't see how I get you to a ball.
So then you don't understand geometry. It's geometrically the only possible shape that can produce that outcome.
I mean, if something's flying over your head and then the angle gets, it like changes slower and slower the farther it gets away from you. Like, wouldn't that happen on a flat surface too?
That's what I'm saying. It only happens on a flat surface.
Yeah. So?
But that's not the way it works on the sphere, which is because we're on a sphere.
No, you just said it did.
Okay, Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
You know what a protractor is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what a protractor is, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And you know what a straw is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You can use the protractor and the straw to create a very simple optical measurement tool to measure angles to things that you're sighting through the straw. You could pick an object in your house, hopefully you've got, or you better yet, go to a gym, or not a gym, like a basketball court at the local high school gym or something, where they've got, a pretty long flat floor and lights way up high, right?
Yeah.
And if you use that protractor and that straw to measure the angles to a light that's directly over, let's say directly in the middle of the basketball court, right where tip-off happens, right? Mm-hmm. Where when you stand underneath it, it's directly at 90 degrees on the protractor. And then you start measuring how many feet away to make 1 degree of change, and how many feet away to make another, let's say 5 degrees of change, and how many more feet to make another 5 degrees, and how many more feet. That distance will keep increasing. The first time it might be, 5 feet, then it'll be 8 feet, then it'll be 15 feet, then it'll be 25 feet to make that same 5 degree of distance.
I see what you're saying.
But that's not what happens on the Earth. On the Earth, for any given distance, you have 1 degree of change because you're walking over a curved surface.
Well, then why is it flat?
It's not flat. That's how we know it's not flat, Jerry. Because that wouldn't happen on a flat surface. That would never happen on a flat surface.
Well, you're just seeing stuff going on with the stars. So what?
Well, then you have to say it's magic then. Because the sun is supposed to be a ball of energy that's, on the flat Earth, that's, whatever it is, 25 miles or whatever, 6,000 miles up or whatever, 2,000 miles up, I forget. If it's a ball of energy over a space, it's obviously going to follow that same exact geometry as the light does on the basketball court, but it doesn't. Unless you say that it's magic and it's more than one place at the same time.
I don't know what's going on up there.
Okay, so then you have to deny the sky because the sky debunks the flat Earth, and it gives you the R value.
No, the sky is the sky, right?
The sky is
What?
part of our reality. It's a major part of our reality. That's why all the ancient people obsessed about the sky, because at night, that's all they stared at.
So why did they think the Earth was flat?
They didn't. Not anybody that studied it long enough.
Hmm.
And they also didn't have, they didn't have near supersonic transcontinental transportation either.
Do you know anyone who stood under Polaris at the North Pole? And
No, it doesn't matter, because you can pick any star on your meridian and ask somebody else that's looking at that star on the meridian, and it doesn't have to be Polaris, and it can be a star that's directly over your head, or it could be the sun at high noon, and all the other people's sun at high noon at that same time, on anyone on your meridian, and measure the angle of the sun on the meridian at that moment, right? Someone in Quito, Ecuador, and Toronto, Canada, are at the same meridian, more or less, within a few miles of the meridian. And when they measure the angle of the sun at the same moment in time, it corresponds to their latitude and their known distance.
Yeah, because it was all figured out with that.
It wasn't
Goes to
really
the
all
sun,
figured out.
That's how lines of latitude were established.
And they were extrapolated based on the evidence, right? That's why it's useful for navigation.
Well, they were
It's
just
useful for navigation because one degree requires a certain distance of change, and it's a fixed amount, which is why you can navigate on it. If it was a varying amount, it'd be very difficult to navigate on it.
Well, they were just put there. It's not like anybody measured the ground and said, okay, this is 45 degrees north latitude. It's just that's because that's where the sun was. They just put it there, or they measured the angle to Polaris and said, okay, there. But no one ever, took a.
There's a whole. This is just unlocks a whole bunch of other problems with all these observations, right? Like the fact that the sun rises even outside of the tropics, way south of the circular path of the sun over the flat Earth. The sun still rises and sets to the south in December. So for someone that's all the way in the very southern tip of Africa or South America or Australia, they still see the sun rise south of them in December, which is not possible on the flat Earth, because on the flat Earth, the sun and the tropics are well north of them. So the sun should only go from northeast, north to northwest. It should never be rising southeast and setting southwest. That's another obvious debunk of the flat Earth. As well as the fact that in December, the sun, for someone that's in South America, the sun will rise southeast. It will travel to the north of them and then set southwest. They'll have like in Ushuaia, Argentina, the southern tip of South America, they have like a 19-hour day because the sun rises in the southeast, it travels around them doing almost a full circle, and it sets in the southwest. That's not possible on a flat Earth.
Maybe you should work on your flat Earth model some more.
There is no flat Earth model. They talked about flat Earth models in 2015 and 2016, and they realized that it was like a fool's errand to create a flat Earth model, which is why they don't talk about flat Earth models, and there is no flat Earth model 6 years later.
Well, how do you know? How do you know that you just debunked it if there is none?
I did just debunked it just now because the sun can't be to the south of you on the flat Earth. It's not possible in these locations. The tropics are well north of you. And the sun can't circle around you in the southern tips of these southern continents. There's no way for that to happen on a flat Earth because the sun's path is well north of you.
How can you debunk something that doesn't exist?
He's trolling you, man. He's trolling you.
Yeah, that's pretty clear now.
Like, it was clear right off the hop when he was like, maybe. And the tone of his voice, like, yo, bro, explain our precious metals
what's up?
for us. Explain our precious metals for us. Gold, silver, platinum. Everyone's got it, right? Gold chains, fucking silver chains, earrings, rings. Where does that shit come from? Where does it come from?
Brilliant.
Where does gold come from?
Yeah. Gold, silver,
It
platinum.
comes from the ground, sir.
Say the jewelers.
Where does it come before that? Where does it come before that?
It comes.
How do you know where it comes from? Come on.
is
How do
not
you know
a
where it comes
powerful
from?
argument, Gypsy.
It is. Scientists did a fucking test where they took nuclear fucking fusion power from a plant, 48 hours, and turned a small cylinder of mercury into gold. The amount of energy that they needed to do that costed 100 times the amount in the gold that they produced, and they didn't even create it from scratch.
Yeah, of course they would say that, wouldn't they? We'd expect them to say that, wouldn't we? Of course they'd say that.
Well, that's what they say, right? Well, it's nuclear fusion
Yeah.
in the fucking nuclear plant that they're using it
How
in.
can I verify this for myself? How can I verify that they actually did that?
Ha ha ha, touche. Well, if you want to be a flatty, Jim.
Oh, you're arguing against flatties. That's my point. That's why this isn't a very powerful argument. It's just too easy to say, well, how do I know that happened? And how do you know that happened? And
Okay, then
you don't really know it happened.
If you want to go personal, something that anyone can do, step outside, right? Wait for a day where there are clouds, and the clouds are going to have flat bottoms with puffy tops, okay? So you can really distinguish the part of the cloud you're looking at, right? I had a lake in my backyard, one of the largest freshwater lakes in Canada, okay? I had a view span of over 400 or 500 feet and less. With a telescope and a camera, at the horizon, you see the flat bottoms of all these clouds, right? And then near the horizon, you see the clouds off in the distance behind and below the horizon. So you can see the flat bottoms the whole way
What
across.
does this have to do with gold? What do the clouds
We've
have to do
moved
with
on from
gold?
gold. We've moved on from gold, Chris. What you're into this, Jerry? The flat bottom clouds.
Yeah, flat bottom clouds. And with the naked eye, you can't see the flat bottoms of these clouds anymore. You take up the telescope, they're like, oh, it's just fucking compressed vision and shit. No, because you take up the telescope so you can look fucking further, and you still can't pull in the bottom of these flat bottom, puffy top clouds.
I don't get too
So
bogged
either
down
the
in that.
cloud,
This
either
stuff.
the cloud is underground or there's curve. And
I
this is
know.
something anyone can do. So if you want to get
I
personal,
don't know, Jerry. Are
that's what I
flat bottom clouds good evidence of a curved Earth? I'm not so sure.
Right. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
I
they
agree
are.
with
If you want to get
with
basic and simple,
Gem
point of
here
view.
is that this is mostly a philosophical argument because there's no such thing as a paradigm neutral observation. So I mean, you could take any observation you make and you could twist some kind of logic around, or have some kind of theory that explains something that you wouldn't see every day and make it fit. So all these things that we can't
see it every
physically
day.
touch
Like,
or
my backyard
measure
was
is
the lake, so I was able to see this quite often. And there's two explanations: either that cloud is under the fucking ground, which doesn't happen, or it's behind the fucking curve. So if it's behind the curve, then the Earth's got to be curved. Anyone could do it, right? Like, what's your explanation for how you got into? What was the reason why you got into flat Earth? What convinced you of flat Earth? What was the first thing that made you think flat Earth? I'll blow your mind with this one too.
flight routes.
What?
That's the first thing. Flight.
Oh, flight routes.
Right.
So, what YouTube video did you watch about this, and why is the person in the YouTube video the source of truth on anything?
Would you rather me watch the ISS live stream off of YouTube? Is that what we're?
Yes.
Are we going to go
that's
down
not
the path of?
I would rather you did that.
What's that got to do with flight routes?
Way to
then?
not respond to what I asked. Why is a person that had the video on YouTube a source of authority on this subject? That's my question.
No, you are assuming things.
Well, how'd you come into flat Earth without YouTube?
Well, I saw a debate between Nathan Thompson and Fight the Flat Earth, And it got me
that was on
thinking.
YouTube, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But,
Perfect.
you know,
So
I'm not a
without
YouTube researcher, if that's what you're talking about.
So you're saying that you never
Well, I
looked up
mean,
a
you
window or
believe
looked up a
Nathan
plane
Thompson. Wait, you believe Nathan Thompson, so what makes Nathan Thompson a source of truth on anything?
I didn't. I
Well,
just. He just got me thinking about stuff, so I looked into it.
How'd you look into it?
I read academic sources on it, and you know, I came to my own conclusions.
Can you provide any source for any topic that you came to agree with Nathan Thompson on?
I don't know what
when you say
thinks.
academic source, are you talking about published papers? A scientist
I'm talking
who's
about,
related
you
to
know,
the
academic, you know, Bertrand Russell, Percy Brigman, Morris Klein, you know.
And what shape of the Earth do they think it is?
Oh, so this is well, they think it's a globe, so that debunks everything. All right.
Yeah.
You said something really interesting a second ago.
Yeah.
You said something really interesting a second ago. You said that you can have your paradigm not neutral measurements, and you can make them say whatever you want.
No.
I haven't seen anybody make them say it's flat.
No, I'm saying that there's no such thing as a paradigm neutral observation.
Right. But then I thought you said something akin to that you could make numbers say anything that you want.
No, I said math is not reality.
Yeah,
when you say paradigm
but it
neutral,
reflects
when you
reality.
say paradigm neutral, what do you mean by that? I don't know what that phrase means.
Well, I could cite you a source on that too if you want.
No, I want
You
you
show-
to
yeah,
tell
preconceived
me what
notions.
you think paradigm neutral is, because I don't know what it is. So tell me what it is.
It means that you come to like when you see something, how you perceive it gets intertwined with your whole history, your education, what you know about the world, you know, your biases, you know.
Okay, so help me understand this. I grab a measuring tape and go out and measure from the wall in my backyard to my door.
Mm-hmm.
How can that, I mean, it is what it is. It's going to be like 30 feet, 50 feet. How can you be anywhere in between that? You can't say, oh, it's not that.
Well, you're working with a standard. You're working with a tape, like a measuring tape, right? So,
well, I could do it with my feet. I could say it's 28 foot strides from the fence to the door, or whatever.
Right,
It doesn't matter. I don't need a measuring tape per se.
Right, and everybody's foot size is different too.
Well, that's why I said my foot stride. It's 28 foot strides from the fence to the door of my foot strides. I was specific.
Okay, so what? So what? What's the point?
And so that when you say paradigm neutral, there's no such thing as paradigm neutral in that, because it is what it is. My foot strides are my foot strides.
Yeah, because you're working with an outside standard. You are comparing to your feet. Like if you have a ruler and you measure things with it, it's always going to, you know, conform to that ruler. But once you get outside of that, you know, and even within it, with Zeno's paradox, I mean, it's all just philosophy.
Philosophy? How's it philosophy? It is what it is. If a doctor measures in, I'm 5'11", I'm 5'11". There's no neutral ground. I am what I am.
Yeah, because he has a tape that says 5'11".
And why shouldn't I trust that tape?
I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying you could use it. It's fine. I don't care.
So define what paradigm neutral is again.
Paradigm neutral? It's when
you said paradigm neutral because either he measures me and I'm 5'11", or he measures me and I'm not 5'11". How can there be a neutral ground between those two?
No, I'm talking about like theories. I'm not talking about when you use a friggin' tape, you know, a measuring tape.
Well, it's still, I mean, I'm giving a simple example. What is a paradigm neutral? What does paradigm neutral mean? You still haven't said what it means.
I could give you a source on that if you want.
Like, for example, the theory of natural selection, either it's true or it's false. How can there be a paradigm neutral? And what is a paradigm neutral in that context?
It's either true or not true.
What's paradigm neutral, though? You said paradigm neutral. What is it? And that's
It means that you can't just use mere facts.
No, you're talking about theories. So I said the theory of natural selection. How can you have paradigm neutral in the theory of natural selection? Either it is or it is not.
Right. So it would depend on how you interpret the evidence of what you're given. So, you know, you see one bone and you say it's, 1,000 years old. Another guy sees it and says, oh no, that's 30,000. So, you know.
But they don't check it by looking at it.
I don't think I would look at a bone and say it's any age, because I don't have the tools to measure the age of the bone. And I don't even know how to if I had tools.
But it isn't derived directly from the bone always anyway, or not completely. You know, it's to do with where the bone is found, right? Because there are some things that we can know about when, particular geological layers were formed. You know, like when, for instance, there's a volcanic eruption and a lot of ash falls, or there's a flood and a load of mud is deposited. You know, it's possible for us to figure out when these things happen by tying them into, other things like, what we find in tree rings, or, there's all sorts of methods of dating available to us where we can piece together when, if it's a bone or a fossil, when the creature was likely to have been alive.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't just derived by looking at the bone.
Right.
Right. So if you grab a bone and it's from column A, and that could be any column, I'm just calling it column A, a general time frame from that column of when that bone existed. Then you use dating methods to date the bone more closely to the time that it was actually around. Right, Jim?
Right, because often, sometimes it can be found between two layers of stuff that we've already dated, right? So then we know it must be between this age and this age.
Right. Okay. And then we use...
And those other dates may have been derived by some other means.
And then
like
we
I
use
say, like for instance, in tree rings and in fossilized tree rings.
There's also...
and then we use...
We can overlap those over time, and you can see things, like catastrophic environmental events occurring in the tree rings.
There's also uranium dating as well. That's a thing.
Right. So you see those things like you're saying, Jim, in the tree rings, or through different layers, or even in multiple layers at the same time. And then you use the different dating methods to more accurately date. Obviously, you're not going to get to the exact hour that it was created or made, but you'll get a more closer range than just the layer itself.
Right. I mean, how accurate do we need to be when from our point of view, we're usually talking about millions of years anyway, right? For a fossil.
according to Bev, we need at least a millimeter of accuracy. So if you can translate that into what you're saying, then we'll know.
But if we're wrong, I don't think we're, wrong to the point where it's 6,000 years old. And that seems to be the only other idea that's on the table,
Right. And we still haven't reached because he said different scientific theories. So I brought up the theory of natural selection, and he still hasn't given me an idea of what paradigm neutral means.
All right. This is from Thomas S. Kuhn, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. He says, this is the situation that creates the school's characteristic of the early stages of a science's development. No natural history can be interpreted in the absence of at least some implicit body of intertwined theoretical and methodological belief that permits selection, evaluation, and criticism. If that body of belief is not already implicit in the collection of facts, in which case more than mere facts are at hand, it must be externally supplied, perhaps by a current metaphysic, by another science, or by personal and historical accident. No wonder then that in the early stages of the development of any science, different men confronting the same range of phenomena, but not usually the same particular phenomena, describe and interpret them in different ways. I have something here from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Yes, mate, but those are philosophical constructs over the definition of how we're gonna do the science.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think there's anything there to disagree with. I think that's
no, me neither.
Right, so that's where I'm coming from.
In any certain way, but to imply because everything is wrong,
how we gonna do the
over
science?
the theories that we made it in science, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
I don't necessarily disagree with his statements either. That whoever that was.
But I don't think they're saying reject science or nothing that comes from it is reliable.
Right.
So Jim, back to the thing that I'm trying to help me understand is the theory of natural selection. What is a paradigm neutral position of the theory of natural selection? You still haven't answered the question.
What he's saying is that I think he's saying that everyone has to have some sort of a starting point on this, right?
Paradigm.
For most people, either they work from the idea that the Bible's correct and the Earth is 6,000 years old, or they work from the idea that the Earth is, 4.3 billion years old, and and I think that's what he's saying. That.
Well, Jim, that goes back to what I said about a doctor measuring my height at 5'11". Either I'm 5'11", or I'm not. There's no neutral position.
Right, but is that the same when it comes to the age of the Earth? Can we be as sure about the age of the Earth as we can that you're 5'11"?
That's not the same at all.
It is either 4.5 billion years old or it's not. There's no paradigm neutral position.
Well, yeah, but if it's not, then it's another age by definition.
Right. Just like either I'm 5'11" or I'm a different height. It's either 4.5 billion years old or it's not. It's a different age.
Correct.
So what's paradigm neutral then? How can you have a paradigm neutral position of natural selection?
Well, he's saying that you can't. That's his point. That you're going to be starting from some sort of biased starting point, whatever you conclude. Is that right, Jerry? Is that
right?
Well, I don't disagree with that. I just want to know what paradigm neutral actually means.
It means you come to it, tabula rasa, blank slate, just,
Well, I think he makes a good point though, because is that possible, Jerry?
Well, how do
no,
you
it's
think?
not.
I don't think.
I don't think
but in any circumstances ever, I don't think it is.
How do you think
Right.
the Earth was created?
Because I think you have to. You've always got reasoning requires some presuppositions. You cannot.
Absolutely.
You can't begin to reason without some presuppositions, and it really depends on those presuppositions, I think. And sorry, my phone's ringing.
All right. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy says that positivism also had to contend with the recognition that a purely inductivist approach along the lines of Bacon, Newton, and Mill was untenable. There was no pure observation, for starters. All observation was theory-laden. Theory is
We have to go
required
back.
make... Right.
Can you let him finish? Can you finish reading that?
Sure. Theory is required to make any observation. Therefore, not all theory can be derived from observation alone. Even granting an observational basis, Hume had already pointed out that one could not argue for inductive conclusions without begging the question by presuming the success of induction. So,
Need to go back.
Yeah, there's no way to validate your senses without using your senses, which is, it's a problem.
This is a little bit questionable because we have tools.
This time, get it right. This time, get it right.
Random guy.
It still comes back to the fact that all those people he's quoting believes the Earth is a sphere. Why don't you quote from people who don't believe the Earth is a sphere? If the Earth is not a sphere.
They wouldn't be able to prove it either there, Jack.
While Jem, hold on one second. While Jem is on the phone, can you guys just get me to where you are, just real quick, just brief?
So he's implying us that the theories that we have in science are coming from neutral points of view with a background of. So you have to take all the backgrounds and all the presumptions that you have been put in our science, and you have to extrapolate them, and after that to come to a conclusion because it's true or not.
Mm.
Well, he's trying to support, from my perspective, he's trying to support his idea of the flat Earth by quoting people who don't think the Earth is flat.
No, we're talking about philosophy.
I'm telling you, you need to go back, and this time get it right.
I'm talking about philosophy. I'm talking about, geometry. I'm not talking about the shape of the Earth.
How you can talk about geometry and you don't understand geometry, my friend? How you can talk something that you didn't touch it?
And if I was to quote flat Earth sources, you'd say, yeah, but he thinks that the Earth is flat. So what are you quoting him for? So
no.
This is what happens is when you quote people from within your own paradigm, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, then you have to go and say, oh, well, he thinks that the Earth is a sphere. Do you believe him on that? Because you can't refute the facts.
From Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's flat earthers who always quote from them, not me. I've never once quoted Neil deGrasse Tyson. Not that I disagree with some of the stuff he says, I've just never quoted him and used him as evidence for anything.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. You're saying if you're using something that people we accept as field experts and whatever material they're writing in about, that when you read their material and you see something that you can use to show an error in our logic or reasoning, then that's where you're going to use it from, because we're more likely to accept something from somebody who we believe knows what they're writing about. Right? Is that what you're doing? Okay. I mean, it makes sense. I would, because you're right, because right on the surface, if you presented something like that Lemon wrote, it would be dismissed instantly.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're presenting something on, let's say, the eclipse, then you have to present a scientist and what they believe about the shape of the Earth and how eclipses occur. Right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, because that's an observation.
Yeah, but eclipse wouldn't happen on a flat Earth.
Yes,
Is so then maybe you should work on your flat Earth model and see if you can make it work. Well, you guys are constantly saying how, this and that wouldn't work on a flat Earth model. Meanwhile, you say that flat Earth doesn't have a model. Maybe you should work on the model.
Why should I work
Instead
on a
of-
model that I don't believe?
Well,
This
then
is
stop coming up with these
observable-
straw men
This is an
to
observable
make
fact.
yourself feel better.
The sun and the moon are 180 degrees apart, are about that far apart. It is night on one side of the planet, it is day on the other side of the planet. And if we are to accept the fact that an eclipse is when the moon passes in front of the sun, or a solar eclipse is that, how can that occur if they're 180 degrees apart? On the
Couldn't I
flat
just
Earth?
say bendy light like you guys do with the selenilion eclipse?
Bendy light.
Oh, the shadow's
Bendy light would
refracting.
also explain if the sun's 3,000 miles above the surface of the Earth at all times, why does light stop at an arbitrary point and not light up the entire Earth?
Maybe you should work on your flat Earth model and figure it out.
I don't believe in the flat Earth, so why should I build a flat Earth model?
It sounds like you have, sir.
No, I'm asking simple questions to a flat earther, but they're afraid to answer the question.
It sounds like you're strongmanning the shit out of flat Earth
How
in
am I
order to make
strongmanning?
yourself feel better. You're just saying that the sun's
strongmanning?
3,000 miles away.
No, well, first off, I said it is an observable fact that the sun and moon are 180 degrees apart.
Okay.
Are you disagreeing with that?
Well, I couldn't measure that without using math, which is already, that's full of problems. Like
All right, let me
like when
rephrase.
you try to fit, celestial objects into a framework of mathematics, it's problematic.
All right, so let me put it a different way. It is observable fact that half the world is in night and the other half in day. Can you disprove that observation?
Have you seen that?
Well, when it's morning or daytime in the United States, it's nighttime on the other side of the world, 180
Where's the other
degrees away
side?
from where I'm at. Like in Russia,
Yeah.
Russia and Iran and
Why is it nighttime?
Middle East.
And why is it
Europe.
nighttime?
So what?
Because the
Like,
sun
what-
is not out.
Okay.
So if the sun's not out on that side of the planet, why does it have an arbitrary stopping point of its light?
You don't need it, do you?
Who said that it's arbitrary? Like why are you saying that the sun has to fit to a certain,
He's trying to explain to you without the mathematics, because the light, yeah,
Yes, I'm
from
not
the
using
day.
mathematics. It's simple. Half the
Yeah, simple.
world is in light and half of it's in darkness. The sun is out
But what
and
is
half
this-
of the moon is out. How does
what
the
does this
eclipse
mean? Like,
occur?
who cares?
Yes,
Oh,
because we're
okay.
talking about the eclipse. How does an eclipse happen if that's true? Well, not if it is true. It is true. So how does an eclipse occur?
Why are you,
You should
bringing
work on your
eclipse
flat
into
Earth model.
this?
I'm not even talking about the flat Earth. I'm just talking about general observation. Eclipses
Well-
happen. We know that the sun and moon are on opposite sides of the planet. How does the eclipse occur?
Don't you have a model that explains that?
Why won't you answer the question?
Why do I have to answer that?
Because I'm asking you a direct question. Why won't you answer it?
Because I, like you, don't know what's going on with the celestial bodies.
So you don't agree that the moon passes in front of the sun when there's a solar eclipse? You don't agree with that?
I see the sun get dark. In order for me to scientifically validate why it gets dark, I would have to manipulate whatever cause I think is happening there.
That's a straw man.
But it's an observation.
If it's a moon, how are you going to manipulate the moon?
Exactly.
It's an observation, my friend. It's not a scientific method. Observation. I have observed this and that.
I don't know if that's the moon.
There are thousands of videos on YouTube of time lapse of people time lapsing the moon as it passes in front of the sun. Prior to it passing in front of the sun, you can tell it's the moon. All of a sudden, when it's in the front of the sun, people who deny the sphere of the earth have to claim it's something that it's not.
So what? Don't you guys have like black holes and stuff?
That's a straw man.
So what?
It's not a straw man. It is, in fact, the moon passing in front of the sun. That's what every time-lapse video you see shows.
You don't ask a flat earther what an eclipse is. That's not the brightest way to go at it.
Why not?
It's like,
it's the way I want to go about it, so I don't care what you don't think.
If you have a model, then you should go with that and be happy.
I don't have a model. I'm asking you the question about pure observations of thousands of people every year seeing the moon pass in front of the sun, and we knowing that it's daylight on one side of the planet and nighttime on the other side of the planet.
It doesn't mean anything.
On this side,
and it's a straw man.
On the other side. How does the moon pass in front of the sun?
You see the sun get dark.
I'm asking a simple question of pure observation. How is it
the sun gets dark? The sun gets dark. It darkens for some reason.
You're trying to insinuate something.
You need to stop the moon and see if the sun still gets dark to see if that's what really caused it.
Just say what you're trying to say then.
Millions of people every year watch the moon pass in front of the sun. People who deny that are denying facts of millions of people seeing it with their own eyes. What I'm trying to say is I'm asking, how does that occur?
The moon is a hologram.
The moon is the whole prove it. See, flat earthers have to come up with all these ad hoc explanations instead of admitting that the moon appears to be in front of the sun. And they can't explain how that occurs on their model.
You act like I'm out there, actually out there with it. So that's a straw man right there.
It's not a straw man.
I don't think he knows what a straw man is.
Who, me?
He's the random guy.
You asked me what I think about it.
How?
No. The flat earther.
Every day, all
the
year
weasel
around.
Voice boy.
Explain to me how observations of everyone year-round, ever since there was humans on Earth, knowing the sun, our day and night cycles, and watching the moon pass in front of the sun is a straw man.
It doesn't mean anything.
It does too mean something. Just because flat earthers don't want to answer how
Then
could that
say
occur?
it. Then say what you're trying to say then.
I just said what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Well, you're going to have
Just
to
'cause
prove
you
it
don't
like
like my
every
wording
single
doesn't mean
one.
I didn't see what I want. The point is, on a flat earth, it wouldn't work.
Well, if that makes you happy, then, go ahead. If that helps you sleep at night, then, believe what you want.
Chris, why wouldn't it work on a flat earth?
It's not what he's believing, what he's making happy. It's about your claiming something because it's flat, and obviously, or according to observations, it's the opposite way. It's round. So
Well,
he's
Chris-
not making him happy or making him sad, or it's just an observation that disproves the flat Earth.
Well,
No,
Chris
he-
also claimed that it couldn't work on a flat Earth, and I'm just asking him to tell me why.
Because the sun and I've said this multiple times, the sun and moon are observationally seen 180 degrees apart. So how could the moon pass in front of the sun if they're 180 degrees apart at all times? That's why.
Well, if it makes you happy to believe that it's the moon getting in front of the sun, then fine. And even if it
It's not belief,
wasn't,
it's knowledge. It's not belief, it's knowledge. I observe it. I know what the moon looks like. I know what the sun looks like. I observe the moon moving in front of the sun.
okay,
Just like I look at the wall in my bedroom. I see the wall. I know it's a wall.
can you touch the moon like you could touch your wall?
What does that have to do with anything?
What do you know what's going on up there, man? You don't know anything that's going on up there.
Wait. In that context, I can't touch China, so therefore it doesn't exist.
You could go there.
No, I can't. I can't afford to go there, so I don't believe it exists.
Okay, good for you.
Under your paradigm.
So what?
Can you touch the air?
Okay, so you know that the moon's getting in front of the sun, but you don't know that China exists. Okay.
But can you touch the air?
Can I
I've
touch the
never
air?
observed or been in
Yeah.
China.
I can't touch the bottom of the ocean without special equipment, so therefore it doesn't exist.
If that's what you want to argue for, go ahead.
I can see my brain, but the brain doesn't exist.
I can't touch clouds, therefore clouds don't exist.
Hey man, research shallow Earth.
See, they're
Ocean
still
depths
running
are not
away
greater
from
than
the
1,000
question.
feet.
I cannot touch color, guys. Does that mean
In
color does
order-
not exist?
In order for me to figure out why the sun darkens, I need to manipulate my presumed cause, and I can't do that
No,
with the
you
moon.
don't.
Period.
You do not. You can observe the moon as it passes in front of the sun and know, because of the observation of seeing the moon, that it is in fact the moon.
So what type of pretzel logic do I need to appeal to when I could see the moon and the sun above the horizon, and then the moon starts to darken from the top
Wait.
down? Like, how do I get out of that?
So what if it is the moon? What does that mean? It doesn't mean nothing either.
Yeah, it does. How does
No,
that
it
occur on a
doesn't.
flat Earth?
You have
How
to
does
keep
it
on
occur on
going
a
with
flat
this.
Earth?
Be interested in seeing that model as well, how a moon could work, how an eclipse could work on a flat Earth. Has anybody done that?
Nope, that's my whole point.
They've tried. They invoke a third body that's like a dark moon or a dark sun. They do all
Sure.
sorts of weird shit.
Yep.
Twit's been here a long time. She knows that.
Mm-hmm.
But that still doesn't answer the question. If the moon and sun are 180 degrees apart, which is a observable fact, how can we observe the moon appearing to be in front of the sun? Millions
Well, it
of
would just
people
have
every
to
year
be.
see that.
It would just have to be 180 degrees away from the sun on a flat Earth. I don't know. That's all
But
I
the
could think
moon
of.
would have to be on that side too.
What did you say?
The moon also has to be 180 degrees away from the sun, not the person. So the moon would have to be on the same side of the planet as
Okay.
nighttime. And
So you
daytime
got
is
the
180
moon blocking
degrees.
the sun. What do you do?
Okay, so that's your observation. You see it, and that's what's going on. So how do you explain the moon darkening from the top down while it and the sun are both above the horizon?
Because the Earth rotates and the moon comes over the top of the Earth.
The
And
Earth
it's
rotates and the moon comes over the top of the Earth.
in its orbit. The moon in its orbit comes over the top of the Earth and it appears that it's coming over the top of the sun.
Mm. Say that again?
And that's how an eclipse happens on a flat Earth.
As the Earth rotates, the spherical Earth rotates, the moon in its orbit comes over one side of the Earth that makes it appear to be on the top side, quote unquote, the top side of the sun.
Do you think the moon it have a
At least that's how I explain it. I could be wrong.
Orbit?
No. I'm talking about something called the Selenelian eclipse.
Yeah, and I'm trying to explain it the best I can, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I can be corrected.
So how do you explain it? You said that the Earth is rotating, and then
The
what?
spherical Earth is rotating, and as the moon orbits the Earth, in its orbit, it passes and appears to pass from the whatever side, the upper side of the sun, down and cover the sun.
No. The moon darkens from the top down, not the sun.
Right, because the sun is brighter than the moon. Then in its orbit, it goes up from the bottom up and appears
No.
to darken.
It darkens from the top down.
Yeah, and if it's passing, think of the Earth rotating and the moon coming around and underneath the Earth, and then coming up, and as it comes up, the light from the sun overshadows the moon, and it goes top down.
But you could see the sun at the same time.
Yeah, it's not eclipsed
And
by
in a regular
anything.
eclipse also. So what's your point?
If the Earth is in between the sun and the moon,
Yeah.
how can you see it? How can you see the moon start to darken from the top
You're
down?
talking about a lunar eclipse. You're talking about a lunar eclipse, right?
Yeah, the moon darkens from the top down. Yeah.
Okay, well, you didn't specify that. I thought you were talking about a solar eclipse. So I was trying to explain how that would happen in a solar eclipse. Well,
No, I was talking about something called the Selenelian eclipse.
which is another form of the lunar eclipse.
Right.
Would you
So how
accept
come?
my answer if I told you I don't know? Because I haven't studied that much. But that doesn't mean
Yeah,
it
sure.
doesn't occur.
Sure.
I don't know. But that doesn't mean the Earth doesn't rotate and is not a
Okay.
sphere.
All right.
And even the explanation I gave of the solar eclipse, I'm not 100% certain on. I could be wrong with that.
I don't know.
Flashburn, you gotta say that that's not to scale. Just be clear that it's not to scale.
Oh, is this when they appeal to bendy light and all that? Bendy shadows, right? See, this is what happens is when something doesn't fit observation, there's metaphysics to the rescue. Like you'll never see an exploding bomb pull something in towards itself. But that's
Yes, you do.
That is
that's a lie. Hold on, Jerry. That's a lie. The first thing that happens is an implosion on most large ton bombs, followed by an
But
explosion. So you're you're wrong.
Does it pull things toward itself?
Yes.
Yep.
Hence the term implosion.
Okay.
Maybe not, maybe sometimes it's not noticeable to people because the explosion outward is greater. It appears to be greater. Would that be an accurate representation drink?
Yes, and it also is followed usually microseconds later. So,
and plus the implosion is them. It's sucking like all of the oxygen and stuff out of the room, right?
Correct.
Towards it, and then
It's
the
pushing it.
explosion
It's pushing.
Yes, it's pushing it in. It's pushing it in and pulling it out. Thanks, Twit.
No, it's pushing both ways.
Oh, pushing both ways. Okay.
Because there's no pull, remember?
Oh, that's right. You're correct. Thanks for correcting me, Twit.
That's okay.
So heated gases can pull things in and push them out at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Twit, I love how they believe your sarcasm.
So, hey, Jerry, it seems like these are complicated. Have you ever been on a sailboat?
Mm-hmm.
So we agree sailboats are real?
Yeah.
Cool. You ever heard of the Vendée Globe?
The Vendée Globe, no.
Cool. I just put a tracking map in the debate channel if you want to take a look at it. This is a really cool race. It starts in Vendée, France, travels south around Antarctica and back up to Vendée, France.
Mm-hmm.
What's amazing about this is these boats, as they're racing, go as far south as they can, because the further south they go, the less distance they have to travel. And therefore, the faster they get done with the race.
Okay, so what?
So that's incompatible with any map of the flat Earth I've ever seen.
Maybe you should work on your flat Earth model.
Except the problem is, I have a map and a model that work just fine for all
Okay,
navigation.
well then, take it and go ahead. But if you want to prove to me that the Earth is a ball, one way would be to do north-south circumnavigation along a single line of longitude. Can you do that?
Yes, it's been done multiple times, but that's not the point, and not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is my sailboats, because I'm a dork who only talks about sailboats. So, these sailboats,
You're a sail dork.
yep, the further south they go, the smaller circumference they have of the sphere.
Okay.
We know that the further north they go, the smaller circumference they have of a sphere. So the only shape that I know of that would work on is a sphere or maybe an egg.
Okay, so you don't know if it's a sphere or an egg?
Well, given only those 2 points, they would be indistinguishable. Luckily, that's not all the data we have, but
Here's a much simpler thing. Is the Earth a circle?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So is your point just not to hold a position?
I have a
He has
position.
to hold out.
You have a
has to
position.
hold that position because
Sure.
my next question is, will destroy the flat Earth. Period.
What's your position, if I can ask?
Is the Earth
Well,
circular?
I
Hold
could
on,
say that I could say that my position is fixed right here in my chair, and there are no fixed positions in heliocentrism.
What's your position on the shape of the Earth?
It's flat.
Flat.
What?
Is
Okay,
it
is
flat
flat,
Earth?
so now
Is
flat,
this flat Earth circular or
flat is
square?
now a shape, right?
No, it's not a shape. It's a
So when I
characteristic.
ask you what is your position on the shape of the Earth, and you tell me it's flat, and then you tell me that's not a shape, what you've just told me is I didn't answer your question. Would you like to try again? What is your
Sure.
position on the shape of the Earth?
I don't know what the shape is.
Cool. So your position is I don't know.
About shape? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe you should work on your map and your model, because it sounds like you don't know anything and you actually don't want to hold a position here.
I just don't appeal to metaphysics when
I'm not appealing to
observations
metaphysics.
don't match
I'm not appealing to
reality.
metaphysics.
How about appeal to observation? A plane can take off in Los Angeles and travel west and continue west for 24,000 miles and end up back in Los Angeles. How is that possible?
Is that plane going like perfectly straight, like a dead
It's
reckoning,
going
or
west. I said it's going west. It
what
can
are you
go
saying now?
directly west for 24,900 miles and then back where it started. How is it possible to do that?
Because it goes in a circle.
So the Earth is a circle then? Do you
No,
agree with
the
that?
plane flew in a circle.
But how's it possible if the Earth is flat?
Because it flew around a central point.
So is that the central point in that context? Is the central point a circle?
The central point is a point, which also
Okay.
don't exist in your math.
So if he flies in a circle,
Wait, hold on. Points
can
don't
he do
exist
that
on the
anywhere?
globe?
No, they don't.
Wait a minute. Pause. So if he's in Los Angeles and he flies in a circle and lands back in Los Angeles, and let's say he flies over Japan and Europe and back around England, yada yada yada, and now he's back in LA. He's just flown in a complete circle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he does that at each point south of that and ends up exactly at the same point, does the circle radiate outwards from the center? Or is it just a circle at that point?
It's just a circle.
So the flat Earth is a circle.
No, the plane flew in a circle.
But if he's in the southern tip of Brazil and flies west, 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 and ends up back in Brazil, not flying any direction east or north or south, but west at the same exact point, but he can do that all the way up into Canada and do the same thing, wouldn't that say that the Earth is a circle?
In order for you to fly west, you would need to, that's west in relation to a central point, which is north.
Yes, west of the point he takes off at. Directly west of the point he takes off at and lands exactly where he took off, continuing on the heading of being completely west.
Yeah, that's a circle.
Yeah, and if he does that from the south tip of Brazil all the way to the northern part of Canada, wouldn't that say that the Earth is a circle if he ends up in the same spot on every single location he takes off on?
You're saying going north?
No, I'm saying going west. If he's going
How
west,
could you go west from Brazil and end up in Canada?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Wow,
He
straw
takes
man.
off at the southern tip. He takes off in the southern tip of Brazil, and he flies and flies west for 24,900 miles, and he ends up back exactly facing west in Brazil. Now, he starts at that point, and then he travels north of that point and does that again. Let's say he travels 100 miles north of that point where he first started, and he traveled 24,900 miles again and lands in that same point, but he continues that all the way up to the most northern part of Canada. What shape would what shape would that show that the Earth is?
It would suggest to me that it's a cylinder upon further investigation.
Well, wouldn't it have to be three-dimensional to be a cylinder?
Yeah.
Is the Earth three-dimensional?
It appears to be.
Okay, so do you think the Earth is a cylinder?
No.
No.
Why don't you take one of your little? Why don't you take one of your little lines of longitude and just go south and pop up on the other side there. See if you could do that. Stay on one line of longitude, go all the way around.
Yep, and you would end up exactly the same point you left.
Well, if you do that, then I am out of the flat Earth.
I cannot personally do that, but there are people who have done that, and they've done the West thing too. So,
if you plot all of the points that they took, it's just a big ass circle. That's why you got to stay on one line of longitude and go all the way around. Don't do any hanky panky by going west and east and all that. Just stay straight.
As far south as you can go, it ends up being that the lines of longitude, all the lines of longitude end at that point.
So your level of incredibility, it's like ISS is not doing this thing every 90 minutes.
You could say that it does, but who knows?
How you can have this opinion, my friend, when all the evidences are showing us because the ISS is there? How you can stay with this stupid thing?
Jerry, unfortunately, sometimes you got to deviate off of that line of longitude or that straight path because there's not a fucking fuel station. So when the what was it, the last orbit, whatever fucking flight, they had to take flight paths that were going south, but also maintain a distance where they could reach a fucking airport to get fuel.
Well, if they could go
one more orbit,
if they could fly to the moon, and if they could go to the moon on one tank and go to the Mars, I don't see what the problem would be.
We need electric rockets.
There you go.
Electric rockets, yeah. Electric airplanes.
There is an electric rocket. The Electron rocket by Rocket Lab is electric.
Well, we need more. We need big ones.
Yeah. And by the way, they didn't use one tank of fuel to get to the moon. I mean, they didn't have to stop and get fuel, but that's what first stage and second stage when they jettison, those fuel tanks off. Yeah.
No, they should give that a shot with your north-south circumnavigation.
They've already done it. They've done it according to FAA that stayed within FAA regulations. To be, you can be so far off when you're planning a trip like that for a nearby to be within proximity to a nearby airport for emergencies, fuel, shit like that.
So
unfortunately, they didn't maintain your delusional fucking paradigm where apparently they must stay on this one line of longitude.
Mm-hmm.
For you to convince you, because the Earth is round, you need a man who can travel in the particular way that you have been described. And after that, you're gonna have another conclusion because he have been done something wrong, or maybe he didn't film it or didn't, and to come back with your claims. So what's your point of view here? Because everything what we have as human being right now, it's falsifiable by your logic. But what do you want to do with those things? Because I don't get it. I don't get it. What's
me
your
stuff,
point?
And what do you mean? What's my point? I'm just
what's going on in here.
So what you gonna do with all those falsifiable things that you are implying here? Because the ISS doesn't exist. We have to travel from north to south to exactly to the certain path. So yeah, you said it.
Oh.
I didn't say it doesn't exist.
I just want to hear you say one chocolate chip cookie.
All right. So what is it?
It's something in the
I know,
sky
be a good
that just
sport and do it for us,
flies
please.
around.
We grew up on this, and you're like finally the closest thing we've ever come to actually meeting Count Dracula.
Have you ever watched Sesame Street?
If you're mad, dude, don't. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be rude or
All
anything,
back, I
but
promise,
that's
'cause I'm not
all
trying
I
to be mad.
hear
I think
when
it's
you talk
endearing. Yeah.
is the Count from Sesame Street.
Sorry, who,
You
me?
sound like someone we know
Yes.
and love for years.
And
Yeah.
and he helped teach us how to count, and he was called the Count, and he sounded just
Exactly.
like you, and he'd go
That's why they call him the Count.
one red apple, ha ha ha, two red apples, ha, ha, ha.
Two little
Sorry,
red
I'm
apples
not-
rolling into the basket. He says along stuff like two little red apples rolling to the basket. It's great.
I'm not angry at all. I'm only frustrated because he doesn't. I don't know what he wants to prove or what he wants to do with all those things or all those informations that are claimed to be false. And what's the point of view on his arguments? What he
You know how I
wants
look at
to
it?
try to prove?
You know how I look at it? Like sometimes I think that because I understand the human psyche a little bit, like, if someone has a belief or whatever, and then they come with all of this evidence against their own belief, it takes them a while to tear down that belief. They don't just immediately go, "Oh, okay, then I believe it now." It takes a while for that seed to sink in and work on its own
It's far away
subconsciously
from
in
me
their
the
sleep and
thing
all
that
that
I
shit.
want. Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't want to make him to believe because the earth is round, not because it's impossible. In his condition, it's mentally ill. It's not a problem for that. What the biggest problem that I have is what he wants to try to establish. So, okay, it's flat. We got it. So, do you want to do a scientific paper? Do you want to? What do you want to do with those informations? Because I don't get it.
What are you talking about? What do I want to do with those informations?
Yes. What's your final goal?
Final
with
goal?
Those things. Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So
I would ask you the same question. Like, what's your goal? You know what I mean with him because particularly if like you came into it and you just said he's mentally ill and blah blah blah. At this point, what is your goal? Like with
my
him?
goal.
Yeah.
My goal for him is to write a book if it's possible, to make a movie, to do something with those information if they are so valuable and so I don't know how to explain it, so big for the humanity, to win a Nobel Prize or to do something with them, because you have been working. I see, because you have been reading a lot of books, philosophical books, things that you have been dedicated a lot of think of your life, but for nothing, because at the end of the day, the earth is round. We have evidences, everything. Everybody is complying about the shape of the earth in this server, but
all right.
They
so
don't
all those
get out
words that you
from
just
this
used,
server.
all I got from that, like basically, because I mean I understand that you're laying out a long process and all that, but what I really hear, like when I crunched the words down, I want him to believe what I believe. It's globe.
No, it's so far away from.
You said all this other stuff, but then at the end you curtailed it. You pulled it right back into that. I think psychologically we don't even know our own goals while we're here sometimes, and we just kind of ride the wave, and our subconscious guides us. And I really think that you might want to take some internal reflection on why you're actually here, or you're going to be wasting your time and bugging yourself.
No, my goal here is very very simple, to stay out from the situation that I have had in the past, because I don't want to describe them, that have been very ugly, and I want to stay mentally focused on something, because otherwise I'm gonna go crazy. So that's why I'm here.
That is a much more believable answer. No, but still, that's a different answer than the first one. His goal was to have him write a movie or make a book, write a book, all that.
But
that was an ego answer, guys. That was an answer straight from his ego, right? And then never mind. I'm not going to psychoanalyze you anymore. I'm sorry.
He have been spent a lot of time of researching facts that are falsifiable or philosophical facts, but he doesn't do nothing with them. He's sitting here on the Discord server talking about flat Earth.
Yeah, that's the way I think about it. Though.
I thought
That's just my opinion.
he have a goal with those things. So I think he have. I don't know. I'm gonna publish a scientific paper. I'm gonna do something with that in science. I'm gonna do. But okay, if he doesn't have a goal,
Well,
it's fine.
The thing is like all these sources that I have, they're all out. So what's the difference? It's like this stuff's out. You know, all my stuff on, you know, optics and philosophy and geometry and physics. It's like all this stuff is out.
I'm very curious to see how you gonna put it on a paper, on a piece of paper, and describe it everything. But what you see the shape of the Earth, or I'm very curious how it's gonna look. Maybe it's only my imagination. It's gonna stay like that.
I don't know. I wish I just had like just I don't know, like a 50-foot long piece of steel, right? And just put it on the ground and just see if it, you know, goes straight out over the curve, so to speak. You know, it's just.
Would you be interested in seeing something like that?
What's that?
Would you be interested in seeing something like that? Maybe something over water?
Something like Force the Line or something.
Like a long metal rail that is specifically designed with extremely high tolerances to be as straight as possible, straight in quotes, over water?
Well, I mean, wouldn't it bend after a while? Because it gets so heavy.
It's actually sitting on bedrock, so it doesn't bend.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in seeing that?
Well, if it's already sitting on something, you know, like, you know, it would have to
You can
go.
just say no, and I'll move on.
Well, there's a lot of stipulations. Like another thing too is like, you know, just freeze the entire Pacific Ocean and draw a big ass triangle on it, and just add up all the angles. It's like, yeah,
just freeze the ocean. That's all.
Sure.
You know, just kill all life on Earth.
Yeah, why not? Just so I can know if it's a ball.
Start with Moyoc.
Sure.
You would hurt my poor boat.
Exactly.